Folks, on the line with me is our man in the field, Daytona Mike, Michael Demps. He is on the Appalachia Trail. Mike has been checking in with us here almost every Wednesday. We skipped one Wednesday. Let's just go for it. Mike, are you there?
Hey, I'm here, Uncle Tim. How's it going?
You know, it's going pretty good for me. I was under some serious time constraints, but I'm glad you let us by a few minutes, and I'm glad you got a good signal out there. Where are you tonight?
Tonight I'm at mile 1,322, and I am in New Jersey, just past Delaware Gap.
You've got 1322 in.
Yeah, well, I jumped ahead, so I'm not quite there, but that's where I'm at on the trail.
Okay, yeah. What would you say you've got left?
So the rest of New Jersey, and then we'll hit New York, and then Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine.
I can't wait to hear about Maine, because last week a few folks were listening. We talked about the toughest mile on the Appalachia Trail, the Mahoosic Notch. So you got that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I'm pretty sure we just finished the toughest mile just now.
Really?
No, we saw a reminder of Dragon's Tooth. We had Dragon's Tooth as part of the Virginia Triple Crowns. You have Dragon's Tooth, McAfee Knob, and Tinker Cliffs, and we just saw a reminder of it. We hiked through it today. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that part in Maine, though.
I have been following your photographs. I think that last one I looked at today was sunset today. Was that right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Sunset. It was beautiful, and that's probably maybe a mile and a half south of where I'm at right now. And when I was getting closer to the shelter, I kept checking my phone to see my signal strength. And the closer I got to the shelter, the more excited I'd get. Because sometimes there were a couple spots today I had nothing, and then. But I knew once I was about a mile out, I was like, worst comes to worst, I can just hike back once I'm all set up. But it worked out because I got good strength here.
So you are at a hostel tonight?
Tonight I'm at a shelter. So there's shelters all along the trail. They're just basically three-sided structures. And you can sleep in a shelter in lieu of setting up your tent. And normally I like to set up my tent, but hiked in pretty late tonight. It was already dark. And so I said, why not just stay in the shelter? Because I was hiking with Tortilla, a trail named Tortilla, and there wasn't anybody here when we got here. There were a bunch of people had tents set up already, but no one in the shelter. So, we just took the shelter.
Okay. That sounds decent. Let me back up just a minute here now. Explain to me, I know you're doing this in sections. First, you started where and went how far before you jumped ahead? Yeah,
so I started in Georgia, Amicalola Falls, and did the approach trail up to Springer Mountain. The trail, Appalachian Trail, doesn't technically start till you get to basically the summit of Springer Mountain. But I chose to also do the approach trail, which is basically an additional, I think, 8.2 miles up Springer Mountain. So started there, and then hiked through Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and then most of Virginia, basically just shy of the Shenandoahs, and then shuttled up to northern Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now I'll hike up to Maine, and then once I get to Maine, I'll have to shuttle back to northern Pennsylvania, and then I'll hike south from northern Pennsylvania to just past the Shenandoahs, and then that'll be that.
Remind me, what is your reasoning for doing it this way?
Yeah, so Mount Katahdin is in Baxter State Park,
right,
up in Maine, and it gets pretty treacherous up there, and snow, wind, ice, and so they closed that part of the trail, or they closed Baxter State Park because basically because of search and rescue. I mean, it's once they feel like people aren't going to make it, then they go ahead and close it down.
Okay.
It's just for our safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, that 1322, that's not how many miles you've covered exactly.
No.
What do you think?
No.
What do you think you got in?
I don't know. I'm trying not to do the math right now.
Okay.
It's a lot, so I'm trying not to think about numbers.
Just
I like to think about it more in terms of states, you know.
Okay.
But I'd have to actually sit down, look at the map, and do the math.
Just keep walking, right? I watched a special on a woman that was doing the Western States 100. She'd had her ups and downs. She was a very fit athlete and very good. And she said, my motto for this year, I can't really say it on the air, but she said, my motto for this year was going to be, F it, just keep running. So there, I think your motto is just keep hiking, Mike.
Yeah, and I was talking to, I've mentioned her before, High Five one day, and I remember asking, I was like, hey, so how far are you hiking today? And she's just like, you know what, Daytona Mike, I don't do math. I just hike, and I kind of share that mentality now too, you know. And actually, sometimes even during the day, you know, if I plan on a 15-mile day or a 16 or a 20, sometimes I don't want to know how much further I have to go that day. I just assume hike because the less I look, the shorter it feels.
Right, and if you,
it's like watching like trying to watch water boil.
Yeah. And if you got people saying, "Oh, you're getting close," and you really aren't, you still got miles, so you don't want to hear it.
No, I don't. And even once I get to Katahdin, I still have the section in the middle. So, but I'm having a blast. It's a great time. But there are moments. But I knew there would be moments before I started, so it's all good.
I know you went through a tough stretch there. You took some rest time there. Are you 100% right now?
Yeah, I'm 100%. Yeah, I took several days. I had some tick bites. I don't know if they bit me or not, but I pulled 4 ticks off myself in one day, and then I fell maybe 4 or 5 times in a few days, and my legs were overworked. I'm not sure, but the faster you try to hike, and if you take a spill, the harder you fall, and I had landed on my arm 3 times, the exact same spot. And the last time I fell, I landed right on my arm, right where your ulna and radius are.
Okay.
And so basically below the elbow. And when I fell that 3rd time, I was afraid to look at it because in my head I was like, I could have a compound fracture right now. I was afraid to look down, and nothing happened. But it was a huge knot. You could visibly see it within 10 seconds. It was a huge knot. It was extremely sore, and I was like, man, one more time, and my arm's gone. And so it was that, I think, combined with the ticks, and then when I got to Stanimals 328 in Waynesboro, I remember walking down the stairs because I got a room at that hostel, and I was walking up and down the stairs, and I'm not kidding. I had to hold on to the railing with both hands, and literally go one step at a time. I had to put my left foot on a platform and then put my right foot on the exact same platform. I couldn't skip down. And I was holding on to the railing with both hands, and I'm like, man, this ain't right. I'm going to need some, this isn't right. I'm going to need some time off to just kind of feel healthy again.
Hey, it doesn't have to be fun to be fun. It's like a marathoner that goes through hell, throws up everything else, and then says, oh, I'm going to do another one in 4 months. So it's all part of your Sufferfest, just like you adding that extra 8 miles on.
For sure. And, I've never hiked before, really. I mean, yeah, I've hiked here and there, but nothing, I've never done an overnight hike. And then all of a sudden, I'm committing to doing 2,200 miles.
That's right. Don't start small.
Yeah, so I started big, but I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, I'd change a few things, but I mean, who wouldn't? But I am loving it. But there was a time when it just wasn't really fun anymore, and then when it's not fun, you have to figure out what you need to do, and that's what I did.
Right. You said something about 328. Was that a hotel or something, or did you say?
Oh, so that was Stanimals 328. That was the hiker hostel.
Okay.
The one I slack pack out of. I started in Glasgow and was hiking south, and ended up in Waynesboro, both in Virginia, and they call it Stanimals 328 because 328 was the address of the first Stanimals hostel.
Okay.
So right now there's two, one in Glasgow, one in Waynesboro, but I believe there was another one maybe in Glasgow or Waynesboro, but that was the street address. It was 328. That was like the street address.
Okay. Have you run into anybody that's really was in trouble, had to drop out? Oh,
yeah. I mean, there's too many to count, but I remember, the one I keep thinking about, and this is kind of why I did my rest, was, one of my, good friends out here on the trail, started out doing, I think, 17 miles a day. And, and by the time I was hiking at 17 miles a day, he was burnt out, because you can't start at 17.
Right.
When I first started at Springer, or Emmaquola Falls, rather, when I showed up, and they do safety briefs every, I think every hour or something on the hour, and they mentioned, hey, if you don't have a lot of hiking experience, start out doing 8 miles a day, or 5, but don't start out thinking you're going to do 15s or 20s because you're not going to last. You're going to injure yourself.
It's like going out. It's like going out fast in a marathon. You're going to pay for it.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it in the end. So, like I said before, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so, and I think I've mentioned Minion before. She was the one that was on Hell's Kitchen and Chopped.
I've been wondering if you've been hanging with some of the same people.
So right now I'm hiking with Tortilla. I hiked with him before, and I'm other people. I mean, we're texting back and forth, and so we all know where each other's at. But Minion, I hiked with her for a bit. But I remember what she said, and she said, someday. I said, how far do you go usually every day? And she said, sometimes I'll go 4 miles, sometimes I'll go 24 miles. It just depends on what I'm feeling that day.
Well, you got to want it more than anything, and it sounds like you still want it.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes you have to go based off how you're feeling, but then also, like in New Jersey, there's shelters and there's specific campsites, and so you really have to kind of plan accordingly because you really need to stop at a shelter or a campsite. So just know how far away they are and know how you feel, But if you need to go 10 miles, 10 more miles to the next campsite, and you're not quite feeling it, maybe you need to stay put.
Right. Well, those ticks did not sound good. Have you had any more problems there or with critters of any kind? No problems since. I mean, just make sure to spray everything. And when that happened, I had recently gotten a new pack and new shoes and everything and hadn't sprayed them. Okay.
So I'm sure that was a contributing factor. And now I don't wear shorts anymore. A lot of people are hiking in shorts. I just choose to do long pants now.
I think I would go with that too, just for the possibility of poison ivy, poison oak, anything. If anything's going to start a rash on, it'll pick me. So I prefer the long clothes.
I got poison ivy a lot as a kid, but I haven't gotten it as a grown up. And when I did pull the ticks off, they were all on my lower leg.
Okay, well, that would make me a little nervous, those ticks. Tell us about the Timber Top Camp Group.
Oh, yeah, that was the coolest thing. So I had gotten up one morning, and I was getting ready to. I had already packed up everything, and I was ready to leave the campsite. And all of a sudden, I just saw a group of like. At first, I only saw maybe like 5 or 6, and they were teenage campers, and they kind of yelled and they said, "Hey, how are you?" I was like, "Good, how's it going?" And then all of a sudden, they came out of the woodwork. There was about 30 of them. And they're like, "Oh, are you a thru hiker?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." And they're like, "Oh, do you mind if we ask you some questions?" And so I said, "No, not at all." And I got to talk with them for a good 30 minutes, and they were just a great group. They were super engaged. They were genuinely interested about the Appalachian Trail because they're prospective thru hikers eventually as well. And so they were super engaged, had a lot of questions, and it was just a great experience. And there's also ridge runners out here. Ridge runners, sometimes they stay put, but then sometimes they also kind of patrol the area to make sure, everything's copacetic, nobody needs anything.
Uh-huh.
And they also have other duties as well. But one of the ridge runners showed up too, kind of, and it was just an amazing experience. It was so cool.
Now, who are you calling ridge runners? Just one?
Oh, so ridge runners. There's ridge runners on the Appalachian Trail, and each state has ridge runners, and so basically they patrol portions of the Appalachian Trail. Like they'll have an assignment from like mile or all of New Jersey. I think there's 3 on the trail in New Jersey at all times. One in the northern section, one in the southern section, and one kind of towards the middle. And they have a large number of duties, but a few of them.
I did not realize they had. They're patrolling.
Yeah, they are, and they talk with hikers. They make sure that we understand the principles of leave no trace. They make sure that we have what we need. They also are there for search and rescue if needed. If there's a lost hiker or whatnot, they'll get coordinates of their last known location, and they'll help with that. They also help with the privies, which are basically the compost outhouses.
Right.
But yeah, they've just got a plethora of duties, and it's a great job because you're kind of like some of them say, you're getting paid to hike.
Yeah.
And depending on where they are, like I believe in New Jersey, the ridge runners are on for 5 days and then off for 2. Okay. And I think like in Georgia, I think they're on for 4 days and off for 3.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a pretty neat job.
So that Timber Top Camp group, those kids, were they doing any hiking at all or just camping?
Oh no, yeah, they were doing some hiking. I want to say the day I spoke with them, it was in the morning. It was first thing in the morning. I believe the day before they had hiked 9 miles, or maybe they were hiking 9 miles that day. But yeah, they were doing some hiking. I think they were out there for, don't quote me because I'm not sure, but if I want to say maybe about 2 weeks. And so I saw them in the morning, and it was a female camp. And the evening before, when I pitched my tent and everything, there was another group of campers, and I think it was their brother camp. And it was late at night when I kind of got in, but I saw their tents and everything set up, and I could tell they were a group of campers, super respectful and everything. But didn't really get to speak with them because it was late. I set up, went to sleep, and then woke up, and then saw their sister camp.
Well, that's pretty cool that you did get a chance to talk to the group there.
Oh, it was so amazing. It started out. They asked me what brought me onto the trail, and so the more questions they ask you, the more you kind of get into your own life, right? Because life circumstances affect your decision to come on the trail, and it basically started off. I was going to wait for decision to get into the nursing program, and I was going to come out here for 6 weeks. But then I did research and decided I wanted to do the whole thing. So I kind of got into all that with them, because everybody has their own reason for being out here. But it was just that was an amazing experience to get to sit there and share that with them. And the Ridge Runner, her trail name was Hoot, and it was really neat because she said that she heard the campers coming up to me, and she heard them ask me if I minded talking with them, and she told me, she's like, and then I tried to make my way over to kind of save you, but I got over and you were sitting there talking with them and doing a great job, so I kind of let you do your thing. It was pretty neat.
I wondered who Hoot was, so now I know, one of the Ridge Runners there.
Yes.
Oh, talking about different reasons for being on the trail. You mentioned the Warrior Expedition program. We talked about that. I did some research on that. Do you know anything more about it, or do you want to hear what I found?
I want to hear what you found.
Well, it looks like it's mostly veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The Department of Veterans Affairs, this article starts out online, estimates that 20% of post-9/11 veterans, since 2001, 3 million veterans have returned, and they think 20% are dealing with post-traumatic. And a guy named Earl Schaffer, this is a World War II veteran, said he was going to walk off the war when he returned from World War II. And 4 months later, he became the first person to hike the entire Appalachian Trail, veteran, from what I'm reading. Well, then comes along Sean Gobin. He came home from Iraq and Afghanistan. He thru hiked in 2012, and he founded this Warrior Expeditions. And their plan is to help veterans transition from wartime experiences through long-distance outdoor expeditions. And you get 3 choices. It's not like you can pick. And they do supply everything and the training. I mean, they get these groups. You get 3 choices. You could do the Warrior Bike, which is 3,700 miles, Washington, D.C. to Washington State. That is the Great American Rail Trail. That's a long bike ride. And that is May to July is when it takes place. You apply for these ahead of time, and then they let you know if you've been accepted. So you got your Warrior Bike, you got your Warrior Hike, which is just the Appalachian Trail, Georgia to Maine, 2,200 miles, March to September, that you can sign up for, or you can sign up for the Warrior Paddle. That is the Mississippi River, 2,320 miles from Minnesota to Louisiana, June to September. So you get 3 choices, but to me, you apply and they let you know, and you jump through the hoops, DD 214, that sort of thing. But it looks like they're mostly looking for guys suffering from PTSD.
So, go ahead.
A guy like me, they might just say, go take your own hike. We're looking for guys that are really suffering. So that might be the case.
Well, maybe or maybe not, and I don't want to get too personal with you, but basically they will. They'll ask for your benefits letter, if you have one. Your DD-214, But if you do have an interest, submit your paperwork and see what happens. Yeah, worst I can say is no.
Well, that is true. I remember before I applied for VA health benefits, somebody said, somebody said you'll never get accepted. I filled it out. He said, you make too much money, or you got too much money in the bank. I filled it out. Good to go. I mean, Vietnam veteran, you're at the top of the list. So I've been happy with the VA ever since.
So the Warrior Paddle, I know. I have a friend of a friend who's actually doing that now.
That'd be a story.
That would be a story. And then also the Appalachian Trail group. I remember when I joined. I'm on a Facebook group with the 2024 Through Hikers group. And
are you talking about the Warrior Hike group?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I saw a picture of them at the Arch at Amicalola Falls, and I didn't realize who they were, but now I do. So that was them. And yeah, they started they started in March, so that was that group, and that was before I knew the program existed. But so
yeah, this is all new to me, and like you say, I watched one little video just on the trail. If you're going to do the warrior hike, how they indoctrinate you, give you everything that you want. I mean, it's a real bonding experience. You got a group, so I don't know how many they accept for each one for each year, but like you say, you can't be denied unless you apply.
Yeah. Now, in your research, did it suggest that did they pick it for you, or do you pick one of the three, or do you know?
I'm pretty sure you pick one of the three.
Okay, yeah.
But I won't.
Because I did apply, and it didn't ask a specific one. So I don't know if maybe if you get accepted first and then you decide, or how it goes. But
I'm not really sure about that. So are you applying for next year?
Yeah, I've already applied. I applied maybe 2 weeks ago.
And I don't think they let you know till like after the first of the year, something like that.
Yeah, in January.
Okay.
So you just have to kind of wait and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'd look at me and they'd say, this old guy, he can't make it.
And you probably do a physical, but...
I bet you do.
Yeah.
So it's quite an extensive website. And like I say, I just looked at it today because I wanted to throw out there a little bit. And I did see, I mean, it's not like I could say, okay, I want to hike the Grand Canyon. Is that covered? No, they got these 3 programs and that's what you pick from. So anyway, thanks a lot. It's a learning experience and it's a really good website on the Warrior program. So, hey, thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, and thanks for doing all that research. Boy, do you do your research.
You got to when you're talking to somebody on the air, any kind of interview. You got to be prepared. Hey, you do
a great job.
You got any shout outs this week?
Yeah, I do. So my nephew Brody's visiting my mom and stepdad over in Ormond Beach, and I believe he's got his buddy there, Matt, and so. His birthday as well. So shout out to my nephew Brody, his buddy Matt, my nephew Jake, Tortilla here in the shelter with me, all the hikers, and I appreciate it.
All right. Well, we didn't get you posted from last week, but hopefully it'll be a double post this week, both these programs. And it looks like I got to wrap things up because somebody else is coming into the studio for another show. So anything else before we sign off, Mike?
No, I appreciate you having me call in, Uncle Tim.
Well, I like hearing from the trail, and I can't wait to hear where you're at next week. I'll be following you on Facebook. Anybody can follow Mike on Facebook. Just look up Michael. Is it Ali?
So Mandrill Michael Ali Demps. Yeah, Mandrill Michael Ali Demps.
Okay. Well, you post some really cool pictures, so I'm learning all about the trail as you go along. So anybody can do that. Follow you along the trail. So
sure can.
Well, good luck, and we'll hear from you next week.
All right. Looking forward to it.
All right. Safe travels, man.
I appreciate it. You take care.
All right. Good night.